Good morning, guys. Welcome back to FECAM's unique histology review series. This video is brought to you by the academic and editorial boards of the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students, FECAM's unique chapter. My name is Uguchukwu De Victor. Please do not forget to like our videos and subscribe to our channel, as this will encourage us to make more educational contents like this. Thank you. So today we'll be looking at the histology of the female reproductive organs. And the organs that we're going to focus on includes the ovary, the fallopian tube, the uterus, the vagina, and also the mammary gland. So the first one is the ovary. So the reasons for identifying the ovary includes the primary follicle, which is the major reason. This reason might change with respect to the pointed follicle, which may be the corpus luteum. So the corpus luteum is an ovarian follicle that has released its ovum. So the ovary develops from the genital ridge, and then the functions include production and release of eggs or ova, production of ovarian hormone, the estrogen, and the progesterone. So the blood supply to the ovary is from the ovarian artery. The dimensions include, so the dimension of the ovary is 3 by 2 by 1 cm, and then the weight is 4 to 8 grams. The pathology involving the ovary includes the multicystic ovarian disease, the ovarian cancer. So the slide of the ovary is quite easy to identify on histology, as the most striking feature is the presence of the ovarian follicles. So the general structure of the ovary is in such a way that the outer part, that's this part, is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. Then deep to this epithelium is the tunica abugenial layer, which is a layer of connective tissue. Then the main substance of the ovary is divided into the cortex and the medulla. So in the cortex, you find primordial follicles, primary follicles, and the mature follicles as well, which are in various stages of development, suspended in stroma. Also in the medulla, it's mainly made up of connective tissues, and you find blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatics. So this, the corpus luteum, this is how it looks like. Then this is the primary follicle. Notice the inner circular structure within it. So that represents the developing ovum. Same thing here, this inner circular within this outer circle. And you can see numerous small follicles here, which represents the primordial follicle. Same thing here, you can see numerous small follicles, which represents the primordial follicle. And you can see numerous primary follicles here. So the primary follicle does not contain antrum. The antral space is not found in the primary follicle. So this is the primary follicle. Now this is the stroma. And all this is the cortex. So this is a secondary follicle. You can appreciate the follicular space. This also is a secondary follicle because this is a follicular space, the antral space. This is the ovum developing, and then the ovum is surrounded by the coronal radiator cells, which are the granulosa cells. And then this also is the follicular cells, granulosa cells. Then the outer part of this follicle is covered by the theca layer. So the theca layer is made up of two parts, the theca interna and the theca externa. The internal part is circular and it surrounds the follicle, and then the outer part is fibrous. It also surrounds the follicle. So these two, the granulosa cells, then this one too. I appreciate the granulosa cells, the coronal radiator cells, then the thecal layer. So this is the epithelium, the cortex rather, the cortex of the ovary. So the slide of the ovary is quite easy to identify. The follicles gives it away. Now these two, this a mature follicle with an ovum inside and coronal radiator cells. So the ovary has three main parts. The cortex, which is the outermost layer of the ovary, made up of stroma and developing follicles, and the medulla, which is the central portion of the ovary, which is composed of stroma, blood vessels, and nerves, and then the hilum, which is where the blood vessels, nerves enter the parenchyma of the ovary. So this is the primordial follicle. This is a simple cuboidal epithelium that lines the external surface of the ovary. So this is the cortex and this is the medulla. So you can also appreciate numerous follicles here. This one, this one, this one. So they are numerous. So the slide of the ovary is easy to identify on histology. So the next one is the oviduct. So the oviduct is a tubular structure. So the reasons for identifying the oviduct are the labyrinthine mucosal folds, which are lined by the simple columnar epithelium, and the epithelium is ciliated. So the development of the oviduct is from the Mullerian duct. The function of the oviduct is it is the site for fertilization of the ova by the spermatozoa and also conducts ova from the ovarian surface to the uterine cavity. So the length of the oviduct is 10 cm and it has four parts. The fimbriae or the infundibulum, which is closer to the ovary, and it receives the ovum as it is being released. Then the ampulla, which is the site where fertilization occurs. The isthmus, and then the interstitial part, which is closer to the uterus. So the pathologies involving the oviduct includes tubal stenosis or blockage, ectopic pregnancy. So look at this image here. This is a classic slide of the oviduct. So this is a tubular organ, and in every tubular organ we expect to see a lumen. But then here we notice that the mucosa kind of folds out, kind of obscures the lumen due to the numerous folds. Notice this. So this is called the labyrinthine mucosal folds. So look at this, the way it obscures the lumen, it fills up the lumen. Now deep to the mucosa is the muscle layer, and the muscle layer is the inner circular muscle layer and the outer longitudinal muscle layer. Then the outer muscle layer is lined by serosa or the adventitia because this is lined by the broad ligaments, part of the broad ligament and the peritoneum. So this is the oviduct. And you can appreciate the mucosal folds. So look at these two. So you can't miss this because it doesn't look like the ureter or the urethra nor anything you've seen before. Look at this closely. The lumen is not exactly stellate. Instead, it looks more like a complex network of roads, a maze maybe. So it looks like a maze. That is due to the labyrinthine epithelium. So the mucosal folds kind of fills the lumen. Hence, it looks like a maze. Look at this one too. So it's easy to identify the oviduct on histology. Now the muscle layer, the inner circular muscle layer, and then the outer longitudinal muscle layer, and then the adventitia or the serosa. So the same thing here, the adventitia or the serosa, which is a layer of connective tissue, then the muscle layer, and then the mucosa and its folds. Now the next part of the female reproductive tract that we are going to look at is the uterus. So the uterus, the reasons for identifying the uterus includes the myometrium, which is the muscle layer, and it is thick, and also the endometrium, which is lined by simple columnar epithelium with uterine glands. So the development of the uterus is from the Mullerian duct. The function of the uterus is implantation of fertilized ova, and it sustains the development of the fetus. So the gland type is simple, long tubular gland. And the pathology includes the endometriosis, uterine fibroid, uterine cancer. So the uterus has two important parts that will help you to identify it on histology, and the two parts includes the endometrium and the myometrium. So the endometrium is lined by simple columnar epithelium, and then you can find numerous uterine glands in the mucosa. So one striking thing, one striking thing about the endometrium is these numerous glands, and notice that in this image they appear kind of serrated. This is due to the phase of the uterine cycle in which the endometrium is in. So the appearance of these glands will vary depending on the phase of the uterine cycle. So if you are in the proliferative phase, you find shorter glands. But in the secretory phase, the glands appear elongated, tortuous, and also dilated. So the tortuous nature of the glands in the secretory phase gives it this kind of serrated appearance. But then this kind of looks like the prostate in a way, but then it differentiates from the prostate in such a way that the long axis of the uterine glands are aligned in the same direction. So most of them are facing the same direction. Look at this. Unlike that of the prostate, where the direction of the glands are scattered, you can't really see that this is the direction of all the glands. So some are facing this way, some are facing this way, some are facing this way, and so on and so forth. So these two, notice the disorderly arrangement of these glands. Notice the way they face different directions. You can appreciate that. So that's one of the major reasons that differentiates the uterus from the prostate. And also the fibromuscular stroma here also differentiates the uterus from the oviduct, from the prostate. So the fibromuscular stroma in the prostate differentiates between the prostate and the uterus. So you can see that here as well. The uterine glands, and also there is also presence of blood vessels within the endometrium. So numerous blood vessels within the endometrium, though they are not really visible here, but you can make out some of them. So this is uterus in the secretory phase. Also, the muzzle layer of the uterus is thick, and it is made up of muscle fibers which are running in different directions. But majorly, the outer layer here contains mainly longitudinal muscle fibers, and then the inner layer here contains mainly longitudinal muscle fibers as well, while the middle layer here contains muscle fibers running in different directions. So smooth muscle fibers running in different directions. So that's one of the striking things about the myometrium. So the muscle layer is thick. It also contains blood vessels. So if you zoom in, you see some circular spaces, which represents blood vessels. Then notice the way that the uterine glands are aligned in one direction, and then they appear kind of tortuous here, which represents that the uterus is in the secretory phase. And then the glands kind of extends deep into the basal layer of the mucosa. So same thing here. The glands extends deep into the basal layer of the mucosa. So you can appreciate that. So this is the uterine glands in secretory phase. So this is the phase of the uterine cycle and how the endometrium appears in them. So this is the menstrual phase. This is the proliferative phase. So the endometrium is thinner here. And then the secretory phase where you have the glands being long and tortuous and dilated. And then the glands, they kind of run in one direction, the long axis. So that's it for the uterus. So in this image, you can probably tell which phase of the uterine cycle that we have here. So secretory phase, and then this one is also secretory phase because of the elongated glands, and they kind of appear tortuous and dilated. So this as well, the uterus, the muzzle layer, and then the serosa or the adventitia, the muscle layer, the endometrium. If you zoom in, you will appreciate the glands, the uterine glands, as they extend deep into the basal layer of the mucosa. Notice that if you zoom in, these circular spaces within the endometrium represents the glands. So this is not meant to be here. Actually, this is not the slide of the uterus. So appreciate the basic features of the uterus. So that's it for the uterus. Now the next part of the female reproductive tract that we are going to look at is the vagina. So the reasons for identifying the vagina is the transverse mucosal folds, which is lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Then the presence of a highly vascularized lamina propria, which is the source of the lubricating transudate. And then the length is about 7 cm to 10 cm. The development is from the sino-vaginal bulb and the utero-vaginal canal. The functions is for coitus and parturition. Then the pathology involving the vagina includes vaginitis. Then the look-alike slide is the lip. So the vagina is very easy to identify in that the mucosa has this transverse fold, and also the mucosa doesn't stain as much as the other parts of the image. This is due to the presence of glycogen molecules within the mucosa. So there are numerous glycogen molecules within the mucosa, and the amount varies with the phase and the amount of estrogen within the body. So the more the estrogen, the more the glycogen. So glycogen doesn't stain well, so the mucosa appears pale. Then if you look into the lamina propria, you see numerous blood vessels. So this space, this space, this space, this space, there are numerous blood vessels within the lamina propria. Can you appreciate that? These spaces. Then deeper to the lamina propria is the muscle layer, which has an inner circular muscle layer and an outer longitudinal muscle layer. Then the outer part is lined by the adventitia. So the slide of the vagina is easy to identify. And look at this. The slide of the vagina looks like the oral part of the lip, but no vermilion border. So refer back to the earlier videos on the histology of the lip and the vermilion border. So they kind of looks alike. They look alike, but the vagina has no vermilion border, and then you will not see hair follicles within some parts of the vagina. So look at the mucosal fold, the transverse mucosal fold, and look at the way the mucosa stains poorly. So the pale staining mucosa, and then if you zoom in, you will appreciate the numerous blood vessels within the lamina propria. So these kind of circular spaces are numerous within the lamina propria. So that's the mucosa. Then the muscularis layer, which is the inner circular muscle layer and the outer longitudinal muscle layer, and then the adventitia. So same thing here, the pale staining mucosa. Look at the pale staining mucosa, and then the numerous blood vessels within the lamina propria. Then you see the muscle fibers here. So these small spaces within the lamina propria presents the blood vessels, and you'll also see the muscle layer, the inner circular muscle layer, and the outer longitudinal muscle layer, then the adventitia. So that's it for the vagina. Now the last part of the female reproductive organs that we'll look at is the mammary gland. So it's a kind of accessory organ of reproduction, though it doesn't play a direct role in reproduction. So the mammary gland is a glandular organ that is suspended within an abundant stroma which contains fat cells. So the reasons for identifying the mammary gland includes the compound tubuloalveolar gland lined by simple cuboidal cells, then presence of lactiferous ducts, so the ducts and the glands. So the development of the mammary gland is from the mammary ridge. The function of the mammary gland include production and secretion of milk. The gland type is compound tubuloalveolar gland lined by simple cuboidal cells. Then pathology is fibrocystic disease, breast cancer, mastitis. The lookalike is the thyroid gland. Then the nipple lies at T4 vertebral level. So the mammary gland is easy to identify in that you see glandular structures. So the glands are arranged in form of lobules. And then you can see the duct system. The ducts within the mammary gland. Then the next thing that you can appreciate is the presence of this fibrous stroma. And the fibrous stroma contains fat cells. So in a non-lactating mammary gland, you see more of the fat cells, while in a lactating mammary gland, you see more of the glandular parts, the lobules. So this is the fibrofatty stroma. So these white spaces that doesn't stain well, these white circles that doesn't stain well, it looks like they are vacuolated cells, are the adipocytes. So they are numerous. Also, within the alveoli, you'll also appreciate a lumen within the alveoli. So this is the alveoli, these circles within the lobules represent the alveoli. So the alveoli is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium, which are secretory, and also the myoepithelial cells, which are contractile. So the simple cuboidal epithelium responds to prolactin. So they are acted upon by prolactin to secrete breast milk, while the myoepithelial cells helps to contract the lobules to let out the milk produced by the secretory cells. Now, within the lumen, you find some eosinophilic substance within the lumen of the alveoli. And then inside the eosinophilic substance, you see some white spaces, which represent fat droplets. So they appear kind of vacuolated. So this can also appreciate more of that on this side. And then this is the eosinophilic substance. Then the fat in the stroma, the fibrofatty stroma. So you can appreciate the eosinophilic material within the lumen of the alveoli. So the alveoli, they make up the lobules. Now look at this. This looks like a lactating mammary gland because you have more of the glandular structures. Now look at the individual alveoli. Look at the lumen. Notice the eosinophilic material with whitish spaces, whitish circles within it. So they represent the fat droplets. So this gives us the slide of the mammary gland. Notice this as well. So that's the mammary gland. See this. The lumen of the alveoli contains eosinophilic material. And then you can see the fat cells of the fat droplets within it. So this one too, you can see them numerous here. So they are numerous and so on and so forth. The same thing here. You can see the fibrofatty stroma. You can see the lobules. And then you can see the ducts, the lactiferous ducts. Look at this one too. You can see the lactiferous duct here. This is a large duct. And then you can see the eosinophilic material with some whitish circles within the eosinophilic material. So those whitish spaces represent the fat droplets. So the slide of the mammary gland is very easy to identify. So this also, you can see the lobules, numerous lobules, alveoli, and ducts. And then you can see the fibrofatty stroma. Look at this. The fat cells, the adipocytes, they are numerous here. So look at them. They are plenty here. Look at this here. So it's quite easy to identify. Now look at this one also. This represents the alveoli. So within the alveoli, you can see the eosinophilic material with white spaces within them, which represents the fat droplets. Look at the white spaces within them, the pale staining spaces within them, within the eosinophilic material. Eosinophilic means pink staining. So see, it's within the alveoli. So the alveoli is lined by simple cuboidal cells and the myoepithelial cells. So this is the eosinophilic material with fat droplets. So they are numerous here. So that's how the slide of the mammary gland appears. So this is where we stop for this lecture. Drop your comments and contributions and questions in the comment section. Thanks for watching.